Well, I'm a tad late. Today has been a pretty hectic day, but we made it. It's time to go live. Let me straighten this out a little bit. Fun fact, I left my tripod over at my parents' house because on Sunday I attempted to do a live show covering the brackets as they were released, and of course YouTube buffered me and then took me down. I think they buffered me twice, maybe 3 times, and then took me down, which we looked at the rules. As long as we didn't have the volume on and I was providing my own commentary, that should not have happened. So we're trying to figure it out. I mean, we could appeal it, but really it wouldn't do anything because, I mean, they cut us off fairly early into it. It was about 20 minutes into it. So we didn't really lose that much revenue, so I just might let it be. Don't have a strike, nothing like that. We're good to go. It's just, if you're wondering about the angle, that's why I told that story. This angle is a little weird. It's not normal. It's not usual. It's because I left my tripod over at my parents' because I tried to do a live show over there. How's everybody doing? I'm having a good day, even though it's been kind of chaotic and hectic, and my son's room was a total mess, and I had to help him clean it up. Oh, man. You don't even want to know, guys. You don't even want to know. Anyways, still having a good day, and hopefully you are having a good day as well. I'll tell you something right now. Golden Bluetooth has been rolling pretty hot. So over the past, 3 weeks, and you can ask Joey, this is like clockwork. All of my regular videos have been hitting 1,000 views in the first hour. Now, that's normal in boom months. This is not supposed to be a boom month. Last month was not supposed to be a boom month, but my videos just keep getting pushed by YouTube. They keep getting hit hard. So we're going through some tremendous growth. So appreciate each and every one of you, because we can't grow. We can't have a YouTube channel without folks like you. So we're having a great month. I'm in a good mood. And unfortunately, it comes at the expense of the Pac-12. Yeah, people, I'm just going to be honest, people like misery. People respond to it. People can relate to it. So when you talk about somebody else's misery, and in this case, it's the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is in misery. So, all right, let's get down to it. Well, first, before we go on any further, please hit the like button. I would greatly appreciate it. Even if you're watching a replay of this, you weren't able to get to the live show, that's okay. We would greatly appreciate you hitting the like button. That's what helps these videos get suggested more and we get more views. So if everybody would please take a quick second to hit the like button, I would greatly appreciate it. You're not just helping me, you're also helping yourself because it grows the audience. So I would appreciate that. On top of that, if you have a question, a comment, you want to call me out, or you want to make fun of me, any of that, all the above, and whatever else, best way to do that, get it on the screen for everybody else to see as well. And it's a great way to support the channel is hit that super chat button. It's that little $sign that you see on the bottom right hand corner. Anything you put in that super chat is going to go boop, right on the screen, right where you see my name. And in fact, let me, dadgummit, why does it do that? Let me update this. Yeah, it's a little shaky because I don't have my tripod, so bear with me. Bear with me, guys. There we go. Last subscriber count before we went live, 13,326, and we just hit 13,000 a week ago. And you gotta keep in mind this is the off season, so we're having a great month in what is supposed to be a down month. So yeah, we're having a good month, and it's because of the Pac-12. Yikes. Anyways, what I was saying is, you want to get a comment, you want to disagree with me and want everybody to know it, hit that super chat. We always appreciate those donations, but I'm telling you, in the off season, we appreciate those donations just a little bit more because college football fans lose interest and it's hard to get those views. We're doing well, but we still appreciate the donations. Anyways, that's enough promoting Golden Bluetooth. You know who I am. You know what this channel is. So it looks like the Pac-12 is looking at a TV deal. Okay? Let me be clear about that. It's not that the Pac-12 doesn't have a TV deal offer. They do. They do. The problem is it is bad. It is not good at all. It's not good. So the number that we've been hearing tossed around is about 22 million per team per year. That's really bad. That's a solid 10 million per team per year less than the Big 12. That's a big gap. Now, the Big Ten is interested in Oregon and Washington. So we thought. I'm going to get to that in a second. And the reduced revenue share deal that we heard that could possibly be presented, Big Ten wants to get their new commissioner in first, all right? So that has to happen. But the reduced revenue share that's being tossed around is 40 million per team per year, okay? Even if the Pac-12 gives Oregon and Washington their unequal revenue share, which they are wanting, and the Pac-12 is wanting to oblige them, even though Oregon and Washington have made it clear that they only want to sign a 3-year grant of rights. Oh, we still want to keep them 3 more years. Let's do it. The hell with everybody else. Let's keep Oregon and Washington. So they would be willing to do that, but there would still be a significant gap between what the Pac-12 could offer them with unequal revenue share and what the Big Ten could offer them, even with reduced revenue share. So here's how big the gap is, and I did the math. And this was with a 22 million per team per year. It could be worse than this. I'll get into that here in a minute. So 30 million is about the most the Pac-12 could offer Oregon and Washington as far as unequal revenue share. Big Ten, 40 million, and that's reduced. Eventually, they'll get full share. So we're seeing the gap. We're seeing the gap there. Now, over the past couple of days, the numbers that I've been hearing is actually around 25, 28 million, somewhere in that range per team per year for the Pac-12, which is, significantly better than 22 million per team per year, and it's much closer to the Big 12. If that was the end-all be-all and everybody's getting, let's say, 27 a year, then chances are everybody would probably stay. They like that academic prestige. They like the shared resources. They like the money that they make off of academics. That would actually be good. The problem is, and this is what I'm hearing, is that doesn't cover production costs. And somebody backed that up by, what was it, MLS, their production through streaming. I think it's through Amazon. It might be Amazon, Apple TV, which both of these are involved. Whoever it is, it costs MLS $60 million for production. So the amount that I'm seeing is $75 million a year. So you divide that by 10 teams, and that's a $7 to $8 million shave off the top, because the production costs apparently are not going to be covered under this predominantly streamed avenue. So instead of 25 to 28 million, you're looking at somewhere between 18 to 21 million. Man, that's even worse. That's even worse than, I know 21 is only 1 million short of 22, but that's a lot of money, especially when you're getting down to 22 million. That's not a good TV deal already. So you shave another million off of that, it's not good. It's not good. And here's one thing that a lot of people are forgetting about conference realignment. It is not necessarily solely up to the conferences as far as who they get. Remember, they are partners with a media deal with a TV station, whatever you want to call it. And so they don't get to make 100% of the decision. It's kind of like a combined decision, but actually it's more on the TV provider, the media provider. Here's a good example. Back, I think it was 2011, whenever Texas A&M and Missouri was invited in network. Thank you. I was struggling, Harry. You saw me struggling. Thank you, network. That's the word I was looking for. So back whenever the SEC brought in Texas A&M and Missouri, the SEC was actually looking at Texas A&M and West Virginia. True story. Look it up. Google. It's a fact. But ESPN was like, we want that Kansas City TV market. That's a pretty big one. West Virginia, they really don't have that big of a TV market. Give us Missouri. And so the SEC chose Missouri. I'm telling you, these networks have a big say in this. What I'm hearing, remember, Fox and ESPN both have a deal with the Big 12 and the Big Ten. Fox has Tier 1 rights with both, and ESPN, I believe, has Tier 2 rights with both. And from what I'm hearing, Fox wants Utah in the Big Ten, not the Big 12. And on top of that, they want Oregon in the Big 12. What? Yeah. Things can get crazy. I'm trying to figure out why they would want that. Well, the first argument that they're using is that Salt Lake City TV market is bigger than, the Eugene, Oregon TV market, which is true. Even if you count the entire state of Oregon versus the entire state of Utah, Utah still wins, right? But we've all been almost brainwashed into thinking it's got to be Oregon and Washington. Those two are a pair. They're going together. Either they're going together or they're not going at all. I mean, it's been just hammered into our head. So the sheer thought of maybe it's not Oregon, maybe it's Utah. Utah does have better academics than Oregon. That's a fact. So there's an argument right there. And if you think about it, if you put Utah in the Big 12, yes, you lock in the Holy War, but that can get played anyways. And the Big 12 already has a footprint in the state of Utah in BYU. This would give a footprint in the state of Utah for the Big 10. Big 12 already has it. This would be for the Big 10. So you put Utah in the Big 10, Oregon in the Big 12, Washington goes to the Big 10, and then we know that Fox also wants Colorado and Arizona in the Big 12 for sure. Now, the Utah thing is still up in the air. This is just something that I'm hearing being bounced around. But for sure, 100%, Fox does want Colorado and Arizona in the Big 12. That's two new states, solid footprints, solid TV markets. And even though Colorado doesn't carry a chunk of the Denver TV market, it's still Denver. It's kind of like Houston. Houston doesn't, carry the city of Houston, but they're in Houston, and Houston's a massive TV deal. So it's a starting point. It's something that you can cultivate. Let's put them in a Power 5 conference and see if we can build up that fan base. When with Colorado, they already have a bigger fan base, a much bigger fan base than Houston, but they still don't carry the city of Denver. But you put them in the Big 12 and try to, cultivate that even more. They already have rivalries in there, and you try to carry more of that city. So a lot of things that go into it. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for the $5 donation, says, FYI, Pac-12 Network already produced 2 games a week anyway. So 2 games ESPN, 3 Pac-12, not including bye weeks. Not as much of an issue as you are told. I understand that. But think about this. If ESPN and Fox can get these teams at a discount rate instead of having to go, full all in, in other words, they already have a deal. They're already shelling out that money anyways, instead of having to shell out more money, and you're still getting the content, because it doesn't matter if it's Pac-12 After Dark or Big 12 After Dark or Big 10 After Dark. As long as there's something to fill that time slot, it doesn't matter if it's whatever conference after dark. It's just, let's have this time slot filled. So that's the one argument that Pac-12 fans like to use. Well, no. ESPN really wants to fill in that late night time slot. Yes, but it doesn't have to be Pac-12 after dark. It can be anything after dark. If those teams jump on over to the Big 10 or the Big 12, they're still in that time zone. You're still going to have games in that time zone that can fill that time slot. So that Pac-12 after dark argument doesn't hold as much weight as it did. And honestly, I think you could get better matchups in that time slot. I think you could actually get more interest in that time slot if you, take a batch and put them in the Big 10 and the other batch and put them in the Big 12. You can have better matchups. USC and UCLA, they're already headed to the Big 10. They're already going to have some pretty good, late matchups. Now, I don't know if the Big 10 has like late time slots, so they're going to have to settle for the 7:30s. So over there at USC, they're still looking at 4:30 kick. So if they can get more teams in there to where they can play multiple games out there, where ESPN has a time slot out there, you could see USC versus Oregon at that 10:30 spot. They would still probably try to save that for 7:30 because that's more prime time. But even like let's say an Oregon, let me figure out a decent one, but not over the top. Oregon, Michigan State. How about that? That would be a decent 10:30 game that people would watch. Or let's jump on over to the Big 12. Let's say, I don't know, Arizona, which I know Arizona isn't, got to watch Arizona, but they're up and coming, and they do carry a decent TV brand. Arizona and Texas Tech, that would be a decent, battle of the desert. Like, there's ways to promote this. There's ways to brand this. It's all about branding. And that's why the Four Corners became so popular. Four Corners from Big 12. They branded that. Otherwise, you're just saying Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, or some combination to the Big 12. But instead, they labeled it, they branded it, Four Corners to the Big 12, and it became a thing. Hero75, thank you for the $10 donation, says, I don't understand why they wouldn't want to have an Ohio State versus Oregon game every year. That was the second most watched Big Ten involved game in the regular season 2021, behind only Ohio State versus Michigan. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. That is definitely an argument. And maybe that would be a reason why Fox would be like, well, no, we want Oregon in the Big Ten because we want that Ohio State Oregon. There's different arguments for different things. That's a good argument for Oregon in the Big Ten. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Every day when I put out these videos, I hear something new. Okay? This is why at the beginning of all these videos, I say, welcome to the speculation zone, because we really don't know what's going to happen. I've told this story before, but I want to tell it one more time. I learned my lesson whenever it comes to predicting conference expansion. Okay? Joey knows who my sources were on this. They were pretty good sources. They were right there in the thick of the situation. All right. I'll even take it a step further. They were member of coaching staffs in certain ACC teams. All right. So they were in the thick of it. So I thought they knew what they were talking about. So they convinced me, go to Bluetooth. This is going to happen. And what was it? West Virginia and Notre Dame to the ACC. And I made a video probably every day about it for a good 2 months. And then I trickled it down to maybe once a week for another 3 months. And eventually I stopped. I'm like, this is not going to happen. What are you talking about? You said 2 weeks, which I even laid down a deadline. 2 weeks, West Virginia and Notre Dame to the ACC. Now I look like an idiot. And nobody will ever let me live it down. But you know what? Lesson learned. I learned from that. I don't do prediction videos anymore because it doesn't matter how good your sources are. Nothing is certain until it happens. So that's what all these videos are. This is not me saying, Oregon is not for sure not going to the Big Ten. They're going to the Big 12. No, this is just something new that I heard today. And then what I do is I think about it and I'm like, okay, what are the reasons? Why would Oregon go to the Big 12? Or why would they not invite Oregon to the Big Ten? Because there's reasons for everything. There's like Hero 75 right there. That's a good case for Oregon to the Big Ten, right? But then what I mentioned earlier, the Big Ten is high on academics. And I've heard that the next two actually could be Stanford and Cal. I'm starting to doubt that just a little bit because we've heard talks of Washington and Oregon more than Stanford and Cal. But Utah has a good football brand right now. Remember, they've won the Pac-12 in back-to-back years. They're selling out their stadium on a consistent basis. It's not a big stadium. I know. It's like 55,000, but still, that's impressive. Their brand is at an all-time high. So it's not like you're trying to sell, I don't know, no offense, Oregon State fans. I know you're in the chat, but it's not like you're trying to sell an Oregon State to the Big Ten. That really doesn't make sense. I mean, number one, Oregon State doesn't have AAU status. I don't think they do. I think the last time I checked the list, Oregon State does not have AU status. So, boom, not happening. But number two, their fan base is not nearly as large as, an Oregon or a Utah. It just doesn't fit. So for Utah, their fan base might not be as big as Oregon's, but they're having a lot of success. They're getting talked about a lot. And if they, you know what? If Utah could avoid those stupid losses in the regular season, we could be talking about Utah to the playoffs in back-to-back years. The problem is, they're like a 10-3 or a 11-2 or 11-3 type of conference champion, and of course the Pac-12 gets left out because they knock out a one-loss USC. If Washington, we can't just point the finger at USC and Utah. Washington dropped the ball too, because Washington lost to UCLA, and for whatever reason, they let that game beat them twice, and they lost to a terrible Arizona State. And that loss knocked them out of the Pac-12 championship. If Washington hadn't lost to Arizona State, we would have been talking about a one-loss USC versus a one-loss Washington. So it doesn't matter who the winner would have been. You would have had a one-loss Pac-12 champion, and boom, the Pac-12 is in the playoffs. Now, with this playoff expansion coming up in 2024, that's not really going to matter because the Pac-12 champion is going to be guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. So that drought is going down. It's going to end. All right? The Pac-12 will make the playoffs 100%. If not this year, then by the time the playoffs expand. All right? My point was the Pac-12 keeps shooting itself in the foot. And, the team that wins the Pac-12 championship, they pick up losses in the regular season that they shouldn't pick up. And I'm not picking on Utah. I mean, this has been going on for 6-7 years. Basically, whoever wins the Pac-12 has picked up multiple losses when they shouldn't have. And then they go on to win the Pac-12 championship. That's what hurt the Pac-12 the most. And if you think about it, that might be one of the main reasons. I mean, really think about this. I know USC and UCLA, that's the main reason. Number one, because the Pac-12 did, in fact, lose the LA TV market. So let's not try to, downplay that. That is the main reason why the Pac-12 is in the situation it's in. But it doesn't help that the Pac-12 kept missing the playoffs. I don't think that they would be in as bad of a situation. They'd still be in a sticky situation, but I don't think they would be in as bad of a situation had they, made the playoffs consistently, because they would be making money. But since they have missed the playoffs, they haven't been making that extra money, so the conference as a whole isn't as valuable. Now, you take out USC and UCLA, and that's a dagger right there. That is a dagger. That hurts worse than the Big 12 losing Oklahoma and Texas. Now, I will say this. I'm hearing Pac-12 fans saying, I don't know why Big 12 fans are so confident. They just added 4 Group of 5 teams, and now we're looking at adding, a couple Group of 5 teams. Why is their Group of 5 teams, not as talked down on as much as who we're looking at? Well, yes, the Big 12 did bring in 4 Group of 5 teams. Actually, I think it's more like 3 Group of 5s and 1 Power 5 in BYU. But they got the 3 best. Houston is arguable. I'm not sold on Houston, but Big 12 brings in BYU. I think BYU is a Power 5 team even before they got into the Big 12. Don't forget, they have a national championship. I think it was 1985. So recent history, national championship for BYU. Then UCF, probably the best brand when it comes to Group of 5. Cincinnati, one of the most productive, most successful Group of 5 teams, right up there with Boise State, and they are the only Group of 5 team that made the playoffs. 1984. Yes, a Utah fan. I don't doubt that Utah fans know that that year, because BYU fans probably don't let you forget about it. So 1984, not 1985. Excuse me. But Houston, I mean, really the only draw for Houston is they're in Houston. That's it. I think Houston is a top 5 television TV market, but problem is Houston's fan base, it's not that big, and they're not that supportive. Now, you could argue, well, they've been in the AAC. That's one of the reasons. Well, you look at UCF, and their fans have been way more supportive, and they're also in the AAC. Same thing with Cincinnati. Success also helps with that. But Houston is now in the Big 12, so they will have no excuses as far as fan support. You will be playing Power 5 teams on a week-in and week-out basis, except for the out-of-conference when you play a cupcake or two, all right? Which, side rant, all right? I'm going to get back to that. This is a side rant. What I'm about to say is a side rant. I really like West Virginia playing their rivals in the out-of-conference, but my gosh, our schedule is setting us up for failure. We have one of the toughest out-of-conference schedules for the past 5 years. Last year, who was it? It was road trips to both Pitt and Virginia Tech. Luckily for us, Virginia Tech was terrible and we got the win. But still, that's tough. This year, we have a road trip to Penn State and then a home game against Pitt. I'm going to be at the Backyard Brawl. I am confident we're going to win that game. But still, that's tough. I really wish West Virginia would stop scheduling such tough out-of-conference, because it's setting up the rest of our season as, now we got to win like 5 of our Big 12 games just to get to a bowl, because our out-of-conference is so tough. So, West Virginia, if you're listening to me right now, let's ease up a little bit. Look at Michigan. Look at how they schedule out-of-conference. If you want to schedule Pitt and Virginia Tech every year, that's fine. Maybe not at the same time unless they're in the same conference. Ease up on the out-of-conference. It's hurting us. All right? All right. That rant is out of the way. I had to get that out of my system. But for these new former Group of 5 teams, they will be playing Power 5 teams every week except for their out-of-conference. And those were the 4 best Group of 5s, even though I don't consider BYU a Group of 5. And Houston, not quite sure. But their TV market puts them up there. Now, for the Pac-12, they're looking at San Diego State, Colorado State, and SMU. Serious question. Who really thinks that those brands, those Group of 5 brands, are as good as the Group of 5 brands that the Big 12 is bringing in? I'm not going to, if you're siding with the Pac-12, I'm not going to get mad. I just want your opinion. Do you think the brands that the Big 12 is bringing in, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, are better than what the Pac-12 is bringing in, or looking at, I should say, San Diego State, SMU, Colorado State, and a mystery 4th team? Or do you think the Pac-12 is bringing in the better Group of 5 teams? In my opinion, it's not even close. No offense to those fan bases. And San Diego State is up and coming. I think San Diego State is the closest to any other. I think San Diego State might be better than Houston, but that's it. BYU is a better brand than San Diego State. UCF is a better brand than San Diego State. Cincinnati is a better brand than San Diego State. I will say I do think San Diego State is a better brand than Houston. Okay, I will say that. So San Diego State, that's not a bad pick. It's probably the best of the rest, right? Colorado State, SMU. That's when you start raising your eyebrow. San Diego State kind of offsets Houston. We'll say that. So those two are about equal. We'll say that. But Colorado State and then SMU, I mean, think about this. And we have Pac-12 fans in the chat. So y'all think about this too. Let's say 5 years ago, somebody would have came up to you and said, you guys are going to lose USC and UCLA, and you're going to be so desperate because you're in a bad negotiation situation that you're going to be talking to San Diego State, SMU, and Colorado State. What do you think about that? They would have laughed at your face. They would have laughed at you. So we can literally tell that the Pac-12 is in trouble because of the teams that they're looking at. And what I'm about to say is not talking trash to the Pac-12. It's not looking down on the Pac-12. It's just how it is. It's just how things have been, right? Pac-12 is a prestigious elite conference. There is no way that they would even look at San Diego State, Colorado State, and even SMU. SMU is probably the best as far as academics goes, unless they were in trouble. That tells you right there. If you heard no other rumor, knew nothing else, and the only thing you knew was that the Pac-12 is looking at Colorado State, San Diego State, and SMU, that would be enough to tell you that they are in trouble. Now, what I'm about to say is definitely hearsay, but it makes sense, all right? So we know that Oregon and Washington want unequal revenue share, right? And we know that this TV deal is not looking good, right? So why in the world would they be looking to expand with these group of 5 brands with a bad TV deal? Why? All you're doing is adding more mouths to feed. They're not really going to bring up the value of the deal. Maybe they keep it the same, or maybe they bring it down. I don't know, but they're definitely not adding value. To me, this tells me that the Pac-12, number one, they want to keep Oregon and Washington at all costs. Even though I've heard time and time again that Oregon and Washington are not willing to sign a grant of rights past 3 years. Maybe the Pac-12 can convince them to sign a grant of rights past 3 years. Maybe they can sign one for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. I don't know. Let's just say the Pac-12 is able to do that, right? So these other brands are like, this is already a terrible TV deal. And on top of that, you're wanting us to take a pay cut so we can keep Oregon and Washington, even though we know they really want to be in the Big Ten. That's the entire reason why these teams are talking to the Big 12. Let me be clear. It is not because they think the Big 12 is a better conference than the Pac-12. If I came off like that, then I apologize. That is not how I'm trying to come off. Because they do not, 100%, they do not think that the Big 12 is a better conference than the Pac-12. If they had their choice and the money was right, they would want to stay in the Pac-12 for sure. But everybody has a line. Everybody has a limit. And it looks like the limit is a combination of a bad TV deal combined with possible unequal revenue share. Jason Moore, greatly appreciate the $5 super sticker. Appreciate you supporting the channel and donating. Tim Prangley said, what's a bad deal? Were numbers released? Nope, the numbers still haven't been released. The numbers that we've been hearing is $22 million per team per year. And then today, I was hearing it could be between 25 and 28 million per team per year, but that the deal doesn't cost production or doesn't cover production costs, and that the estimated cost of production would be about 75 million a year. Divide that by 10, and it would seem like, based on math, that the teams would have to take a $7 to $8 million cut per year because of the production costs. So they would be looking at anywhere between 18 to 21 million per team per year. And the example that I gave was MLS has a streaming deal, and it costs them $60 million a year for production costs. So it's the streaming thing that could potentially really hurt the Pac-12. And from what I'm hearing is the deal with the Pac-12 involves Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and ESPN. So it is supposed to be streaming heavy. And that the streaming is what's going to cost them as far as production costs goes. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's what I'm hearing. That the deal itself is worth between 25 and 28 million per team per year, but that doesn't include the production costs of the streaming games. So who knows? Like I said, and I've said this multiple times, whenever it actually happens, this is when we all get to react. So if they end up getting a TV deal that's close to the Big 12, everybody stays, then it's, reaction videos, and then it's probably going down the road of, all right, how long are they going to stay together? Because they're still in a bad situation. I think that no matter what, the deal is not going to be as much as the Big 12. Maybe it's a lot closer than everybody's thinking, but I do not think that the Pac-12 is going to be able to equal the Big 12's deal. Maybe they can get $30 million a team. I don't know, but it's going to be just a hair away from the Big 12. All right. So if it comes out that the Pac-12, is staying together, they sign, I don't know, a 5-year grant of rights, whatever, and the deal is worth, we'll say, $28 million per team per year, right? That's still a bad situation. Especially, see, the biggest difference between the Pac-12 and the Big 12 is leadership. The Big 12 has a commissioner who is looking to improve the conference, whereas it looks like the Pac-12 commissioner is looking to just survive. He's like a deer in the headlights, man. I opened up the bidding because I thought the Pac-12 was going to be as valuable as the SEC and the Big Ten, even though nowhere close. And arguably, maybe the Big 12, they could approach the value of the Big 12. But that literally bit him in the rear end. Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, jumps the line, locks in a deal. Not a great deal. I have said this many, many times. It's not a great deal, but it's a decent deal, especially after losing Oklahoma and Texas. Remember, rewind about 2 years ago, well, about a year and a half, really, and whenever Oklahoma and Texas left the Big 12, left for dead. And that's what the Pac-12 is going through right now. Here's the thing. This is the crazy thing. Whenever I made videos about the Big 12 dying, nobody came after me. But now that I'm making videos about the Pac-12 possibly dying, everybody's coming after me. What changed? Why does people have a problem with me talking about the possibility of the Pac-12 not making it? Whenever I talked about the Big 12 possibly not making it, nobody had a problem with it. Why is this different? Why is this a problem and that wasn't? Why am I this speculation troublemaker out here? But back then it was like, yeah, that's definitely possible going to Blue, dude. They did lose Oklahoma and Texas. I could, this was before they added BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston. And people were like, yeah, I could definitely see the Big 12 falling away. So whenever I was making videos about that, everything was fine. No problem. Everybody's like, yeah, I could totally see that. When I'm making these, oh, man, you're just crapping on the Pac-12. You're a Pac-12 hater. You're spreading nonsense, and it's going to create problems. And why? And I mentioned this in a previous live show. Whenever other conferences were picking off from the Big 12, that was okay. Nobody was a bad guy. But now that it looks like the Big 12 is trying to get teams from another conference, specifically the Pac-12, now there's a big problem. Why? What changed? I don't know. But whatever it is, please explain it to me. Why did people not have a problem back then, but they do have a problem now? I don't know. I think Tim asked what are the top brands in the Big 12. If I had to guess, I would say, let's see, Baylor would have to be up there. TCU would have to be up there. Oklahoma State and maybe West Virginia. It'd be close between West Virginia, and this is basically overall brand because we know Kansas is really good at basketball, but their football brand is terrible. West Virginia is actually solid on both sides, so I would put them in top 4. But I would say, based on recent success and fan support and the revenue that they're bringing in for the Big 12, I would say Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. And barely on the outside looking in, maybe Texas Tech and Kansas State, maybe. Iowa State, I know Iowa State has an argument because they have a crazy fan base, but the viewership isn't great. That's definitely more localized. I would really have to look into the numbers to come up with that. So that is a guess, straight up guess. I really don't know, but if I had to guess, it would have to say those would be the four that I would guess. The Big 12 is more like, there's no blue bloods in the Big 12. It's more like there's a bunch of really, really good brands, but nobody's like blue blood super elite, right? So it's more like the bottom of the Big 12 isn't bad. I mean, West Virginia was one of the worst teams in the Big 12 last year in football, and we still almost made a bowl. The only team that was worse than Iowa State, or that was worse than West Virginia, was Iowa State. You look at conferences like the Pac-12, 1-11, Colorado. You look at the ACC, Boston College. I think they were like 2-10 or 3-9, something like that. So it's like the Big 12 has a bigger middle. They don't have the top tier elite brands, but their middle is, massive, and then their bottom is very shallow. Where you look at these other conferences, they're top heavy, shallow middle, and a deep bottom. So it's different comparisons. Pac-12 still has some good brands. They have Washington, Oregon, and I would say, Utah's getting there, but I wouldn't put Utah as an elite brand, but definitely Oregon and Washington. And that's why the Pac-12 wants to keep Oregon and Washington so bad. The Pac-12 loses Oregon and Washington, and it is definitely over. And that's what we could be looking at is these four corner schools. Maybe they know, or maybe they get a sense. I mean, Oregon and Washington straight up applied to the Big Ten. I mean, they applied. Everybody knows they want to be in the Big Ten. They applied. They got turned down, but they did apply. So these other teams are over here going, man, they definitely want to be in the Big Ten. We need to be looking at our options. So the question isn't, has these teams been talking to the Big 12? They have. That's a fact. The question is, are they going to jump? Are they going to jump? Is Oregon and Washington wanting that unequal revenue share on an already bad TV deal, and these other teams are going to have to take a bigger cut, and the gap between their TV revenue and the Big 12's TV revenue grows even more, and the Pac-12 is stuck. And even if they survive this round, they're not set up well for the next round. I mean, bringing in San Diego State, Colorado State, SMU, is that going to get you a good TV deal the next go-around? I don't think so. It could be, if the Pac-12 survives this, it could be even worse on the next TV deal. And Brett Yormark is trying to think ahead for the Big 12. He wants to set up the Big 12 to have a really good leverage point on the next TV negotiations. The Pac-12 is just trying to survive. I mean, how is adding Colorado State, San Diego State, and SMU going to help you with leverage on a TV deal in the future? It's not. It's not at all. So I truly think there will be some teams that jump from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten and the Big 12. It's just who's going where. We've heard the narrative of Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten over and over and over. And it does make sense. It does. It does make sense. But Utah does have the better academics. Utah has won the Pac-12 in back-to-back years. Utah would bridge the rest of the Big Ten to USC and UCLA. Don't forget about USC and UCLA to the Big Ten. Very, very important to remember that. And you throw Utah in there, and that bridges that travel gap a little bit more. So it helps with that situation as well. And you're getting a footprint in the state that the Big 12 has a footprint as well. So it's like, all right, you got BYU, we got Utah. And then they can argue over who has the better brand. And I know I have BYU fans in the chat, and I know I have Utah fans in the chat. So y'all have fun figuring that out. I don't know. I think both brands are really, really good. I think they're very, very similar. So I really couldn't tell you. But if I had to guess, and somebody said, you have to guess which one, I would say Utah by a little bit. I would say Utah by a little bit, but BYU is still a really good brand. But yes, I would have to say Utah by a hair. So that gives the Big Ten a footprint in the state of Utah, same as the Big 12. It hurts the Pac-12. You got to think in terms of that as well. You want to take shots that not only help your conference, but that's going to hurt the conference that you're going to try to take down. And this is all about the networks, guys. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it's not just the conferences that are making these decisions. The networks are actually in more control than the conferences. So it's crazy when people use these arguments of, oh, the Big Ten would never take Utah. Number one, I think they would. Number two, if Fox says, hey, we need to get Utah, this is how it helps us, we got to get them. I mean, the example that I used earlier was whenever the SEC got Texas A&M and Missouri, it was actually down to Texas A&M, Missouri, and West Virginia. The SEC actually wanted Texas A&M and West Virginia. ESPN was like, whoa. We want that Kansas City TV market. Give us Missouri. If we want West Virginia, we can get them later. What happened? The SEC got Missouri and Texas A&M. So I think, this is my opinion, I could be wrong. Get mad at me if you want, okay? But I think the final decisions come down to the networks. Now, the conferences most certainly have a say in it. I'm not saying the conferences don't have a say in it. They do. They do. But I think that the final decision as far as who they're going to take and who they're not going to take is up to the networks. And what I'm hearing is that Fox wants Colorado and Arizona to the Big 12, and they want Washington and Utah to the Big 10. All right. So let's say that happens. All right. So now we're going into what if land. Let's just say that happens for the sake of argument. Washington and Utah to the Big 10. Okay. Arizona and Colorado to the Big 12. Okay. Let's say that happens. What happens to Oregon? What happens to Oregon? Is Oregon thinking Big 10 or bust? Is Oregon thinking, if we don't get to the Big 10, we're staying in the Pac-12 no matter what? That's what is the Big 12 just not going to happen? That is not a choice. Not at all. Not a choice. So we're sticking it out in the Pac-12. Hopefully we can backfill and get a decent TV deal, but we are not going to the Big 12. That is my question. What would happen to Oregon if that were to happen? Because it's not like, if Oregon turns down the Big 12, let's say the Big 10 is off the table. Let's just suppose the Big 10 gets Washington and Utah, right? And Oregon's like, nope, do not want to go to the Big 12. It's not happening. Well, you're still losing other brands, Washington and Utah to the Big 10, right? And Arizona and Colorado to the Big 12. How do you backfill a conference to replace, well, not only those four brands, but you already lost USC and UCLA. How do you backfill a conference to where you're in a conference that's, Power 5 worthy? You're down to Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, and Stanford as far as original Power 5 members. That's under 6 teams. And if you get under 6 teams that signed the original deal, then the NCAA can technically take off that Power 5 protection. They can. So if it got down to those 5 teams, the NCAA could vote and take that off. So then they would be in a real sticky situation. And then the playoffs would probably revise their rules and say, okay, we're only taking the top 4 champions because the Pac-12 is no longer, or top 5, excuse me. Instead of top 6, get an automatic bid. Only top 5 get an automatic bid because the Pac-12 is no longer considered a Power 5 conference. A lot of ramifications. Couldn't get that word out. Anyways, back to my point. If Oregon was dead set on not joining the Big 12, it's not like the Big 12 is like, oh man, well, there goes our plan of locking down the Pacific time zone. Remember, there's still Washington State and Oregon State out there. So going back to, let's just say, Washington and Utah go to the Big 10, Arizona and Colorado go to the Big 12, all right? Oregon's like, we're not going. Well, if the Big 12 gets more, let's say they get Oregon State. Now you're only down to 4. We'll also get Arizona State because Arizona State's finally, yeah, man, this is a bad situation. We got to go. So they also grab Washington State. That grabs the Pacific time zone year-round, football and basketball. And Arizona State decides they finally want to come with Arizona. Would Oregon stay till the bitter end if all this goes down? The reason I'm asking that is these teams, these brands, these universities need to be thinking ahead. They need to be thinking ahead. And I see a lot of people talking about, Arizona State should be above Arizona. I agree with that. But the problem is the Arizona State athletic director has come out and said, thanks, but no thanks to the Big 12. So I'm under the influence that I'm not drunk, but I'm under the influence that Arizona State just doesn't want to come to the Big 12. I'm not arguing that Arizona brings a better TV market. Arizona State, 100% agree with you. Arizona State carries Phoenix way more than Arizona. Arizona carries Tucson. But, we just heard that the Arizona State athletic director doesn't want anything to do with that. Arizona State right now is saying, not so sure about that. I also agree that the ADs don't make the call. And I've been making a video about how Utah athletic director made that tweet saying, give me a break, and how that could be used as plausible deniability. So I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, it seems like Arizona State doesn't want to go to the Big 12 as of right now. If the Big 12 had a choice between Arizona and Arizona State, sorry, Arizona fans, but the Big 12 needs to take Arizona State. Much bigger TV market, all right? I know Arizona is definitely the better basketball brand, and the Big 12 likes those basketball brands, but basketball brands isn't what drives the money, isn't what drives conference realignment. So if the Big 12 has that chance, then yes, they have to take Arizona State. And did anybody, I forgot to look up if that state legislation actually exists, because I hear that it did, I hear that it doesn't, I hear that it does, I hear that it might not. I don't know. Does state legislation exist to wherever Arizona goes, Arizona State must also go, and vice versa? Does that exist? That might change a few things. It's important. And for whatever reason, I forget to keep looking that up. I don't know why, but I do. Well, Joe knows why. I just forget a lot. Joey can remind me of something like 3 times a week, and I would still forget it by Saturday. I don't know why I'm like that. I just am. So I'm just not sure. I don't know if that legislation exists or not. It matters though. Todd Wynn, thank you for the $2 donation, says, why the hell do people think the Big Ten is good? Well, it's because they do make a lot of money. They have some of the biggest fan bases. It's not necessarily that they're good in football per se, but they have your Ohio States, they have your Michigans, your Penn States. Of course, they have Nebraska. They're going to have USC. So they have some of the best brands in the entire nation. But to your point, Todd Gwynn, and Big Ten fans do not like to hear this. They don't like to hear this. The Big Ten has only won 2 national championships in the past at least 40 years, maybe the past 50 years. One by Ohio State, the first playoffs ever, and one by Michigan way back in 1998. And that is it. That is it. Let's see. Somebody said no legislation. All right. People are saying no legislation. All right. So that matters. And that's actually good for the Big 12. That way, because if that state legislation existed, let's say Arizona wants to go to the Big 12, but Arizona State does not want to go to the Big 12, what happens? Does Arizona State have to go with Arizona to the Big 12? Excuse me. Or does Arizona have to stay with Arizona State in the Pac-12? That would be crazy right there. So since that legislation doesn't exist, we don't have to worry about that problem. Fox wants Arizona in the Big 12. Arizona wants to be in the Big 12. That's what we're hearing. The two brands that are the most interested in being in the Big 12 are Colorado, and Arizona. And Fox does want Colorado and Arizona. And Dennis Dodd, even after Mark Harlan came out with that tweet of "Give me a break," Dennis Dodd still continued to tweet. Didn't say, "Oh, my bad. I guess I was wrong." No, Dennis Dodd has been doing this for 25 years. All right, it's not the first time he's been called out. He was the first on the scene whenever Oklahoma and Texas decided they want to go to the SEC. He caught it before anybody else. And he was first on the scene whenever USC and UCLA decided they want to go to the Big Ten. So, he's not doing stuff for attention or anything. This is his job. He's doing it for 25 years. And he put out a tweet even after the "Give me a break" saying the Big 12 continues to talk to expansion candidates. Talks are going on. I expect somebody to jump to the Big 12, maybe to the Big 10. One team is going to jump. And I'm trying to figure out where I got this from. I think it was from Outkick. No, Heartland Sports. This was from Heartland Sports. Listen to this and think about it, okay? Think about this. It may only take one of the four corner schools to bolt from the Pac-12 for the other three to follow, Big 12 sources say. So the biggest key here is that first team. I think that first team is going to be Arizona. Arizona has been the most vocal. Arizona is a Fox favorite. Arizona has shown they're interested in the Big 12. They have been the brand, the team, the university, however you want to label them, that has been talking to the Big 12 the most. I think that they will be the first team. So that's the big key. Who's going to be the first team and what happens after that? Because I do think at least one team leaves the Pac-12. In fact, going back to Pac-12 expansion, I think the Pac-12 is preparing for teams to leave. Why would they talk to these brands? These brands do not add value. No offense, San Diego State fans. You're one of the better Power 5 brands out there right now. But in this particular situation, you're not going to add to this TV deal if everybody's staying. Now, if there's some brands that are leaving, then you're going to help soften the blow. That's why I think the Pac-12 knows that there's a real chance that some of these teams are going to leave. And that's why they're talking to San Diego State and definitely Colorado State and SMU. Wow. Arturo Balderas. Did I pronounce your last name right? No, that's an R. Arturo Balderas. Arturo Balderas. I butchered your name bad. I apologize. But it is Arturo Balderas. Thank you for the $4.99 donation. Says, Ohio State beat Miami in 2002, 2003, I believe. Utah in the Big Ten would not just be football money, but shared research money too. Yes, and that was the yes. That's the point that I'm trying to make. When you join the Big Ten, you're sharing resources, and that's why I mentioned that Utah makes way more in research money than Oregon. I mean, it's not even close, and they have better academics. So, yeah, Oregon has the bigger fan base. They do get better viewership. It's not a huge gap. There is a gap. I think Oregon, without USC, if you're not counting USC, I think Oregon is number 1 and Utah is number 3, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like a 1 versus an 8 or a 5. It's 1 and a 3. So there's a gap, but it's not like, oh, man, it's either the top team or the bottom team. It's either the 1 team or the 3 team. And then the thing that really swings in favor of Utah is what Arturo Balderas just said. Utah, way more research money, and it gets shared. The Big Ten is sort of a, what's the right word? A Commonwealth Conference. How about that? Big Ten. If I said Big 12, excuse me. Big Ten is a Commonwealth Conference. Because once you join the Big Ten, what's yours is theirs, and what's theirs is yours. And that's why Stanford and Cal are valuable. They are valuable to the Big Ten. Everybody thinks that's crazy. You're crazy. They suck at football. Yes, they do suck at football. But the shared resources thing, the shared resources factor, that's what keeps Cal and Stanford in the ballgame. Listen, nobody
Nobody touches Cal and Stanford whenever it comes to research and academics. They are truly the elitists, the cream of the crop. So it wouldn't surprise me if the next move was Stanford and Cal to the Big Ten. So let's talk about that for a second. The arguments for Stanford and Cal. Number one, the research and academics. Big Ten, Commonwealth Conference, they share everything. What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. And you're talking about the elite of the elite whenever it comes to research and academics. So that's a big draw right there. But on top of that, remember how I talked about Utah would be a bridge between the rest of the Big Ten and USC and UCLA, so it would help in travel. Well, you add Stanford and Cal, and that helps them even more because that's two more California teams. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Big Ten got Stanford and Cal. It wouldn't surprise me if the Big Ten got Washington and Oregon. It wouldn't surprise me if the Big Ten got Washington and Utah. It wouldn't surprise me if the Big Ten got Washington and Stanford. And it would not surprise me if the Big Ten got Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Utah. Personally, I think that's the move that the Big Ten needs to make. I do. You're getting three great football brands in Washington, Oregon, and Utah. And then you're getting two elite research institutions, mega money in Utah and Stanford. Sorry, Cal, you would be on the outside looking in, which Cal would probably just drop sports or join the Ivy League. Might as well join the Ivy League, right? You haven't been good in football since Aaron Rodgers, Marshawn Lynch. It's been a while, like 20, 25 years, something like that, maybe longer. I don't quite remember. It's been a while, so it wouldn't really hurt you that much. You're still going to make the money that you make in research and academics and all that stuff. And joining the Ivy League, people that go to Cal would love to say that Cal is in the Ivy League. So Big Ten bringing in Oregon, Washington, Utah, and Stanford, I actually think that would be a kill shot. Pac-12 would not survive that whatsoever. The Four Corner schools would definitely, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, without even thinking about it, without hesitation, would join the Big 12, and the Pac-12 would be dead for sure. Even if they backloaded with Mountain West teams, they're not keeping the Power 5 status, so the name Pac-12 might continue to exist, but the Pac-12, as we know it, would be dead. So the kill shot for the Big Ten would be Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Utah, and that would be the end of it. But I'm not the Big Ten. I don't make the decisions for the Big Ten. I'm also not Fox. Remember, the networks actually have a bigger say than the conferences themselves because they're looking at who do we want to make some money off of. So it's almost a compromise. All right, you guys want research and academics. We want, biggest TV market possible. That's why Utah is a perfect compromise. They do their fan base is not as large as Oregon's. They don't have as big a TV draw as Oregon. It's not like a massive fan base like Oregon, but it's decent, and they've won the Pac-12 back-to-back years. But they have way more research money, and their academics are better. Utah would be the perfect compromise between Fox and the Big Ten. And from what I'm understanding, Fox does want Utah. Now it's can they come to an understanding with the Big Ten? Does Oregon get left out of the Big Ten in favor of Utah? It's definitely possible. Like I said at the beginning of this show, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody. Whenever it actually does happen, whatever it is, even if it's the Pac-12 staying together, they somehow pull out a good TV deal, let's say $30 million a year, streaming heavy, whatever. Everybody decides it's good enough. We're staying 5-7 more years. If that happens, we'll make reaction videos on it, and then we'll try to speculate to see how long the Pac-12 will last. When everything's changed, nothing stays the same. That's what people realize. This story will end. And whenever it happens, that's when you have to shift as a channel and as a content creator. But as is right now, the Pac-12 is still in trouble. And I'm hearing the countdown clock. What is it? 6 days. I believe is what I was told. 6 days is going to tell us whether they are going to survive or not. Now, what I'm hearing is they actually do have a chance to survive. Pac-12 still has a chance to survive. It's not looking good, but they still have that chance. It looks like Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, and ESPN are all involved in the TV deal for the Pac-12. It looks like it's going to be stream heavy. The numbers that I'm hearing, between 25 and 28 million per team per year. But the kicker that I'm hearing is that doesn't cover production costs, and the estimated cost of production is going to be around 75 million a year. And you divide that by 10. You divide that by 10 teams, and that's that's eating 7 to 8 million a year. And oh yeah, don't forget, the Pac-12 still owes Comcast $50 million. So you have to account for that as well. We'll see what actually happens. Nobody actually knows. I'm not claiming to know everything because I certainly don't. All I do is I take what I see, and I actually take your comments. That's why I call it the Get It Gang. People that leave video ideas in the comment section of my videos, and you guys never disappoint. And it's because of that idea and you guys contributing to this channel why we had such a great February and why we continue to have a great March. It's because of you guys. I'm very thankful that I thought of that idea, but that idea doesn't work without you. So I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by tonight and for continuing to support Golden Bluted. I am blown away. I did not know or realize that we would be at this point of growth at this point in time. It's crazy. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for the $5 donation, says, Utah was number one in watching conference games in the Pac-12. It's not just about fans of a team. Fans of their conference plays a huge role. Absolutely. Absolutely. For some reason, I thought Oregon was 1, Washington was 2, and Utah was 3. I'm not disputing you. I'm just, who was I going by? I'll have to go back and check and see who that source was. So whether it's first like that, I mean, that would make an even bigger argument right there. Definitely. But even if they're just number 3, that's still high. My point was, it's not like you're choosing between, the most watched team and like the 6th most watched team. You're like, oh man, they have great academics, but their TV ratings are terrible. No, Utah has good TV ratings. They're top 3. So whether it's 3 or whether it's 1, that's still good. That's still a draw. So you throw on top of that Utah's research money absolutely obliterates Oregon's research money. They have a case, folks. I'm telling you. I know it's been preached and beat into our heads, Oregon and Washington, but I am telling you, Utah has a legitimate shot of getting into the Big Ten. They do. We'll see if it actually happens. I don't know. Nobody knows. But all the arguments involved, and from what I'm hearing, it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. I've heard that too, Coos. A lot of people said that the Big 12 actually told Utah. Actually, I have something to back that up. Where was it? Give me 1 second. Was this Denistad? It was either Denistad or Skier or Schultz that said this. Hold on. It might have been. Give me 1 second, guys. I think it was. Was it James Carpia? It might have been James Carpia. And this was like a week or two ago. It said, I don't really have. No, this was from MacGyver, the crazy college football conspiracy theorist guy. But there's another source. I'm going to find it as well. But the conspiracy guy said, I don't really have a source close to that program, talking about Utah, but I can just reiterate what I tweeted a couple weeks ago. Utah isn't a high priority and is very low on the Big 12 radar. That could be another reason why Utah president said what he said as far as give me a break. Maybe he knows that the Big 12 isn't even interested in Utah. Somebody else said that too, but I'm going to have to go back and look at my notes because, I mean, guys, y'all got to realize I write tweets and sources down, I mean, all day, every day. I mean, this is my job, so I'm not going to waste y'all's time in looking for that source, but I'll find it again and we'll do a video on that. But yes, I agree with that, Cruz, as far as hearing that as well. I'm not sure if that's true, Who knows if honestly, who knows? Who knows? But I don't know. Yeah, the whole narrative that the Big 12 were to prefer San Diego State over Utah. I mean, the only way that makes sense is if they know that they have Colorado in Arizona, and then they want to lock in that California market. That is the only way that makes sense, because if they don't have those teams interested, then they need to be working on Utah. So why Utah wouldn't be high on the priority, I don't know. And maybe think about this. What have I been saying? All right. What have I been saying? The networks have a big say in this. Okay? The networks have a big say in this. Fox has tier 1 in both Big 10 and Big 12. And maybe they're like, we want Utah in the Big 10 because the Big 12 already has a market in the state of Utah. They have BYU, so they don't need another footprint in the state of Utah. We want Utah to go to the Big 10. And I've already given everybody the arguments as far as, top 3 viewership in the Pac-12, possibly number 1. Larry Pilgrim saying number 1. I'll have to look into that. And then their research money kills Oregon, absolutely obliterates them. So Fox is like, we want Washington and Utah in the Big 10 because we don't have a footprint in the state of Utah in the Big 10. And for the Big 12, y'all don't even talk to Utah, all right? I know maybe you want to lock in the Holy War, but we already have a footprint in the state of Utah. We don't need it. We want Utah to go to the Big 10. Because remember, Fox has both Big 10 and Big 12, all right? So they're looking at both sides. Big 12, you need to focus on Arizona and Colorado, and let's focus on a footprint in the state of California, San Diego State. That actually makes it make sense. That actually makes it make sense if you think about it. I don't know if it's true or not. Nobody does. I'm just giving you the rationale of it, okay? Fox wants Utah in the Big 10, not in the Big 12, because the Big 12 already has BYU, and they want Washington as well. They want Arizona and Colorado in the Big 12, and they want that Pacific time zone. And even though Arizona doesn't have daylight savings time, and they're in a Pacific time zone up until November, they want it locked in year-round, one brand, San Diego State. And this is a double whammy. Who is the Pac-12 interested in? San Diego State. If you take San Diego State off the board, that hurts the Pac-12 even more. If you take the options away from the Pac-12 as far as surviving, as far as cutting them off and starving them out, I mean, this has been done since medieval times, guys, if you really think about it. So not only are you wanting to take members from the Pac-12, but you're also like, guys, you really need to come to the Big 12, talking to Colorado and Arizona. Guys, you really need to come to the Big 12 because I hate to bust your bubble, but the team that you're wanting, we're actually going to get that team. We're getting San Diego State. So if you think that you're going to be able to backfill with decent brands, no, we're actually getting San Diego State, and we're also talking to Fresno State. So you just might want to, come on over now while you can. So, I'm just throwing out ideas out there. I don't know exactly what it is, what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, who's going to jump first, but I do think there will be teams that jump. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for the $5 donation. Says Utah watches other teams. Number 1 in that category, Oregon most watched then, USC, UCLA, Utah. UCLA over Utah? Are you sure about that? I thought it was USC, then Oregon, then Washington, then Utah. I might have to go back and look at that. That's very interesting that UCLA would be above Utah. That surprises me. Washington. Let me go back. Oregon most watched, then USC, UCLA, Utah, Washington in team viewership. Utah watches not watched. Okay, so Utah fans watch other teams, and that's what brings in some value for them. That makes sense too. But does it make them valuable to go to another conference if they're already watching those teams? That is I'm gonna have to figure that one out. But anyways, Kuz, your comment literally made me think of a video idea. So let me write this down real quick. Big 12 trying to starve. Why I haven't done a video on this before, I don't know. Starve out the Pac-12 by getting, and if I don't write it down now, I will forget about this. This is why I write during the show, by getting San Diego State while at the same time picking off teams. All right. I like it. I like it. That's how my brain works. I get video ideas off comments and random thoughts. So appreciate it, Coos. Coos is officially a part of the Get It gang, whether he likes it or not. Just brought you in, man. That's just how my brain works. You don't have a choice sometimes. You don't have a choice. Anyways, I have rambled on too much, and I didn't even get to the brackets tonight. Man, I'm gonna have to double team it tomorrow. We'll have to do all the brackets tomorrow. We will have to make it the bracket show tomorrow is what we're gonna have to do, because we only have one brackets done according to the vote. You know what? Maybe hold on. No, we can do one bracket. What did I do with it? Here we go. Or not one, excuse me, not one bracket, but one region. So yesterday, as a result of super chat voting in the what is it? South region, I think. I have it right here. Where did it? Are you kidding me? There's the West region, the East. Oh, okay, it's gonna be on the back. So in the South region, and what it is people already have my brackets filled out, but I want a bracket representing the channel. So if you don't like a pick, you can super chat the other team as the winner, and so on and so forth. So yesterday, as a result of people super chatting, changing some outcomes, we had Alabama beating the 16th seed easy. We had West Virginia beating Maryland, and then Alabama beating West Virginia. College of Charleston was voted over San Diego State. I had San Diego State, but people wanted College of Charleston. Furman over Virginia. Furman over College of Charleston. Furman over Alabama. Furman almost got to the Final Four because of the votes. But Arizona won out, so Arizona is our Final Four team. Bottom half of the bracket, Creighton got voted in over NC State. Then Baylor beat Creighton. Missouri over Utah State. Arizona over Princeton. And then Arizona beat Missouri. And then Arizona beat Baylor. And then Arizona beat Furman. So we do have Furman going to the Elite Eight. That's the South region. Let's do the East region real quick. I have Purdue, the 1 seed, beating the play-in of 16 Texas Southern or Farley Dickinson. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. If you do, just super chat 16 seed, and we'll put that in there. Between Memphis and FAU, I have Memphis. If you want FAU over Memphis, super chat FAU in the chat. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the amount, but that's how you change it. In the 5-12 matchup, I actually have Oral Roberts over Duke. So if anybody wants Duke into the second round over Oral Roberts, then let me know in the comments with the super chat. I got Tennessee over Louisiana. I actually have Providence over Kentucky as well. I think that's a good matchup for Providence. So if anybody is, maybe we have some Kentucky fans. Y'all want Kentucky in the second round, hit me up with a super chat. We'll change that over to Kentucky. I have Kansas. Let me run through this. Kansas State over Montana State. I have Michigan State over USC. And Marquette over Vermont. Is everybody okay with the first round matchups? I have Purdue beating the 16th seed, whoever that is. I have Memphis beating FAU. I have Oral Roberts beating Duke, which is the 12-5 upset. I have Tennessee beating Louisiana, the 4 over the 13. I have Providence, the 11th seed, beating Kentucky, the 6th seed. And I have Kansas State, the 3 seed, beating the 14 seed Montana State. And let's see, bottom half, I have Michigan State beating the 10 seed USC, and I also have the 2 seed Marquette beating out the 15 seed Vermont. I don't see any super chats, so we're going to move on. In going to the Sweet 16, I actually have Memphis. And remember, guys, this is representing the entire channel. So if you're not okay with it, let me know with the super chat. I have Memphis over Purdue. So I have Memphis into the Sweet 16 over Purdue. Okay. I have Tennessee over Oral Roberts. I have Kansas State over Providence. And I have Marquette over Michigan State, excuse me. So our Sweet 16 matchups in the East region: Memphis over Purdue, Tennessee over Oral Roberts. David Z, here we go. He changed some yesterday. Oral Roberts to the Sweet 16. I think it was David that got Furman all the way to the Elite Eight. So I think he's wanting another Cinderella going deep. So I have Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16 now because of David Z. There you go. It's as simple as that. We have Kansas State beating Providence, and we have Marquette beating Michigan State. And David Z switched up Oral Roberts over Tennessee. So yeah, that's interesting. And that really doesn't change anything for me because I actually had Memphis upsetting Oral Roberts and getting to the Elite Eight, and Marquette beating Kansas State, and Marquette to the Final Four. Marquette is my Final Four team out of the East region. So, second round winners, I have Purdue over the 16th seed, whoever that's going to be. I have Memphis over FAU. I have Oral Roberts over Duke. I have Tennessee over Louisiana. I have Providence over Kentucky. I have Kansas State over Montana State. I have Michigan State over USC. I have Marquette over Vermont. And second round matchups, I have Memphis moving on to the Sweet 16. Oral Roberts, because of David Z, is on to the Sweet 16. Kansas State is a Sweet 16. And Marquette is a Sweet 16 team. And then finally, my 2 Elite 8 teams, I do have Memphis beating Oral Roberts now not Tennessee, versus Marquette. And Marquette on to the Final Four. Is everybody okay with that being the official Golden Blue Dude East region brackets? Tomorrow we will actually do 2. I know I kind of did this one in a hurry. Yesterday I was able to take my time just a little bit. Yeah. Hold on, what is I just saw this comment. Kind of interested. I think Koo said something here. Is it John Kurtz he's talking about? Are you serious? Colonel Kurtz. What? Oh, is it John Kurtz or Colonel Kurtz? What is going? And Koo said 15,000 subs in less than 2 years. Jeez, I've been doing this almost 4 years and I'm still not at 15,000. I thought I was doing good. Dadgummit. Little depressed now, Coos. Just kidding. We're happy. You got to be happy with what you got. The real MVP says I've got Oral Roberts making the Elite Eight, so our brackets aren't that off from the real MVP. So maybe it isn't that bad. And then in the South region, because of David Z, we also have Furman to the Elite Eight. So we got some Cinderella teams going on. Oral Roberts. Remember, didn't Oral Roberts beat Duke before because it was the toothbrush joke, wasn't it? Duke got beat by the toothbrush. I think that's what it was. I don't know. Anyways, so is everybody okay with that? East region. Remember, this is representing Golden Blue Dude. All right, so it's for everybody. Purdue gets bounced in the second round by Memphis. Memphis gets to the Elite Eight. They get bounced by Marquette. Oral Roberts to the Sweet 16, beating Tennessee. Kansas State to the Sweet 16, beating Providence, who beats Kentucky. Marquette all the way to the Final Four, beating Vermont, Michigan State, Kansas State, and then Memphis. That's not too far off from my original bracket. So, we'll get there. Tomorrow we'll be able to do this a little more, not in a rush. But anyways, guys, I got to run. I had a good time. Hopefully you had a good time. That's what this is all about. If you haven't subscribed to Go to Blue Dude, make sure you do that right now. This is what we do every single day. Talking college football and trying to entertain people at the same time. So if that's your thing, hit the subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like button on the way out. If you weren't able to catch the live show and you're watching the replay, that's okay. We would greatly appreciate you hitting the like button. That's what really helps these videos hit the YouTube algorithm and gets us more views. So please hit the like button on the way out. Really appreciate that. Shout out to everybody that stopped by. I appreciate y'all's support. Everybody in the comments section. You guys are the engine that keeps this thing going. And special shout out to all the people that super chat, all those donations. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. So until next time, as of right now, Tuesday night, Go to Blue Dude is officially out.